Hello, traveler. Look, there are people who spend their entire lives carrying a weight that doesn't belong to them. Emotional weight, financial weight, affective weight, moral weight. They live exhausted, completely drained, but somehow they think this is normal, that it is normal to be dissatisfied, that it is normal to swallow everything in silence, that it is normal to live just to please others, to make everyone else comfortable while you disappear into the background. But here is the thing. There are certain obligations that are not yours, and until you understand this, truly understand it deep in your bones, you are going to keep feeling guilty about everything. You are going to keep feeling responsible for everyone, and you are going to remain absent from yourself, disconnected from your own life, your own needs, your own truth. So if you feel like you are living for other people, if you feel like you need to fix everything and everyone around you just to feel okay, today's journey is for you. And that brings us to today's lesson. I'm going to show you 5 obligations that are not yours. And when you finally let go of these things, when you actually release them, you are going to feel what it means to breathe for real. So come with me. First obligation, you are not responsible for the choices other people make, and you are certainly not responsible for the consequences of those choices. And this applies to romantic relationships, to friendships, to family dynamics, and even to work situations. Every human being is the author of their own decisions. Every choice comes packaged with its own set of responsibilities. That is just how life works. The problem is that emotionally, many people try to shield others from the natural consequences of life. They step in, they cushion the fall, they prevent the lesson from landing. But this isn't love, even though it might feel like it in the moment. You might even think you are being understanding, compassionate, generous. But this behavior has another name. It is called enabling. You are preventing the other person from growing, from learning, from taking responsibility for their own life, because you are always making it easy for them. You are always there to catch them before they fall. But empathy is not solving problems for other people. It is not taking their burdens and making them your own. People who are always resolving everything for everyone else, sooner or later, start to accumulate resentment. It builds up like sediment, layer after layer, because everything falls on their shoulders. Everything becomes their problem. Not to mention that this creates dependency in others. They never learn to stand on their own 2 feet because you are always standing for them. So understand this. Being support is not being a crutch. There is a profound difference between helping someone walk and carrying them so they never have to use their own legs. Second obligation, you cannot heal a wound that wasn't born in you, or that you didn't cause in the other person, especially when that person doesn't even want to heal, doesn't even want treatment. Many people enter relationships with a secret mission to be a savior. They want to heal their partner's childhood trauma. They want to erase the rejection they experienced. They want to compensate for the lack of affection they suffered growing up. But this isn't love. This is emotional codependency. The codependent person develops a core belief that they only have value when they're useful to someone else, and useful in a spectacular, phenomenal sense, like being the hero who swoops in and saves the day. So they try to save the other person without realizing they're destroying themselves in the process, because the other person becomes the grand priority in their life, the center around which everything revolves. That is why it is important to understand that emotional wounds are like internal fractures. You can offer support, absolutely, but the person needs to want to heal. They need to commit to their own recovery through their own effort. Having emotional responsibility isn't about carrying the other person on your back. It is about walking beside them, being present with them. You can support. You can listen. You can encourage. But every adult needs to be responsible for their own healing journey. You can point them toward resources. You can hold space for their pain, but you cannot do the work for them. And trying to do so only exhausts you while preventing them from developing the strength they need. Third obligation. Some people become the emotional firefighter of their family. They run to resolve other people's conflicts. They pay debts they didn't incur. They take on guilt for things they didn't commit, mistakes they didn't make. These people, maybe they grew up hearing phrases like, "You are so strong," or "You can handle it," or "We're counting on you to hold everything together." And so they grew up believing that loving means solving everything for everyone. But this isn't healthy. This is a dysfunctional role called the responsible one or the fixer. And people who operate in this role develop such an enormous sense of duty that they completely annul their own life. They exist to fix, to put out fires, to emotionally sustain people who never learn to take care of themselves. That is the truth, as harsh as it sounds. But this always has a price. Because when you occupy yourself excessively with other people's problems, when their crises become your full-time job, you enter a state of chronic exhaustion. Your nervous system is constantly activated. You are always on alert, always waiting for the next emergency. And the math is simple. If you resolve everything, nobody resolves anything for themselves. And nobody resolves anything for you either. Guess who is going to take care of your needs? Nobody, not even you, because you are too busy managing everyone else's life. Helping cannot cost this much. It cannot require the sacrifice of your own well-being, your own peace, your own future. There has to be a limit, a boundary where you say, "I care about you, but I cannot do this for you." The fourth obligation that is not yours is to remain where you are withering away, because many people learn that loving means suffering in silence. It means enduring humiliations. It means accepting disrespect in the name of loyalty, in the name of commitment, in the name of not giving up on the relationship. But this is not loyalty. This is self-abandonment, and you need to know this. Emotionally toxic environments have negative effects similar to chronic physical abuse. They lead to the development of anxiety, post-traumatic stress, and somatization, which is the transformation of emotional pain into physical symptoms. Your body keeps the score. And the most dangerous part, the longer you remain in a relationship that destroys you, the more your brain normalizes the abuse. You get used to the pain. It becomes your baseline. The chaos becomes familiar, and familiarity can feel safer than the unknown of leaving, even when staying is killing you slowly. And here is the difficult truth that nobody wants to say out loud. Staying where you are being hurt is also a choice. It is. So if you've already tried everything, if you've already talked, already argued, already pulled your hair out, already given chance after chance and nothing changes, understand that it is your responsibility to choose your own peace. Nobody else is going to choose it for you. Nobody else is going to rescue you from a situation you continue to accept. Finally, traveler, perhaps the worst obligation of all is to live the life that others expect from you instead of the one you actually want to be living. And this is the root of suffering for so many people. It is that constant pressure, that feeling that you are obligated to be the perfect child, the tireless parent, the impeccable professional, the ideal spouse, the person who never disappoints anyone, who never says no, who never puts themselves first. And so you drift away from yourself, one little piece at a time. You compromise here, you sacrifice there, and gradually the person you actually are gets buried under the person everyone else needs you to be. And what is the result? Anguish, emptiness, a sensation of inadequacy that follows you everywhere, existential crisis, feeling like you are living someone else's life, wearing someone else's skin, because there is no happiness where there is no spontaneity, no authenticity, and nobody has the right to dictate your way of living. Nobody gets to write your story for you. And there is more. When you live to meet other people's expectations, you start measuring your own worth through other people's eyes, through their approval or disapproval. This creates an invisible prison where every step you take is calculated to avoid disappointing anyone. Little by little, you stop choosing and you just start obeying. You stop being the protagonist and you become a supporting character in your own story. You fade into the background of your own life, and maybe this episode has made you a little uncomfortable. Maybe it has touched exactly the wound you've been avoiding looking at, the truth you've been running from. But sometimes you need to hear the truth head-on, without cushioning, without softening. You are not here to carry everything and everyone all the time. You are not, and no life flourishes under those conditions. No person thrives when they're crushed under the weight of everyone else's expectations, problems, and needs. So if you want some friendly advice, return what is not yours. Return the guilt they placed on your shoulders. Return the expectations that others fed about you, that others constructed, and then handed to you like it was your job to fulfill them. Return the problems that don't belong to you. Return the responsibilities that should never have been yours in the first place. But I like helping others. Nobody's saying you shouldn't help. That is not the point here at all. What you cannot do is forget one great truth. The truth that, just like every human being, you also have a life to take care of. And that is the only obligation you can never give up. That is the one responsibility you cannot delegate or ignore or sacrifice for anyone else. Taking care of your own life, protecting your own peace, honoring your own needs. That is not selfish. That is survival. That is self-respect. That is the foundation upon which everything else must be built. Stay safe, traveler. I'll see you on our next journey.